Today I'm going to undertake what some have told me is the hardest thing I will ever do as a pilot. I've been working up to this day for 12 months now, and to say that I have butterflies in my tummy would be an understatement. I actually feel physically sick. I have the UK's CAA IR test today, and it's been a jolly long journey getting to this point.
It started with 6 months of study for the 7 theoretical knowledge exams.
Last exam in this set done, radio navigation.
I studied every day for about an hour, which wasn't too onerous, but it was tedious. Thankfully, the UK CAA is looking into a shake-up of the theory by simplifying the syllabus, reducing the amount you have to learn, and they're looking into reducing the number of exam sittings as well. After the theory was completed, I set off to Anglian Flight Centres at Earl's Colne. I was doing the CBIR, the competency-based instrument rating, since I already had about 80 hours instrument time using the UK's IMC rating. Even though I had that experience, it was tough going.
Word is, it's frustrating. Oh no, I've just done the fuel, not the time. My brain can only work moderately as fast as yours. So just as you're saying it, I'm doing it. No, don't do that. Jesus, that was a car crash. If I get to a point where I pass this test, it will be a miracle.
So why was it so hard?
Quite a few people have asked me how much harder is the full IR compared with the UK's IMC rating. Well, as I said, I had about 80 hours instrument time under my belt already under the IMC rating, and I thought I was a competent IMC flyer, but actually I was wrong. When it comes to entering the airways, Class A airspace, the workload goes right up. Take the radio telephony, for example.
Golf Bravo Mike indicator is identified traffic service. You are cleared to enter control airspace IFR. Climb now flight level 70, direct to Adnam.
Traffic service, cleared to enter controlled airspace. IFR, climbing to altitude 7,000 feet, direct to Adnam Golf, India Victor.
Golf Bravo Mike indicator check. You cleared flight level 70, standard pressure.
Flight level 70, Golf India Victor.
With an IMC rating, you pretty much have a lot of latitude. You sort of navigate by your own means, your own navigation, and you have freedom to vary your track and altitude within limits. When it comes to flying in the airways, they expect you bang on your heading, bang on your track, bang on your speed, bang on your altitude or flight level, and they really expect you to be a competent pilot that's prepared to respond immediately to instructions, and you might get instructions that you've not experienced before.
Best speed please, I've got 2 A320s coming up behind you.
Best speed, Golf India Victor.
With the IMC rating, I rarely went down to the published minimums, although legally you can do so. They recommend that you add a bit of a fudge factor, so I rarely went below 500, often 1,000 feet even. With the full IR, you're expected, certainly for the test, to go right down to the absolute minimums, and the needles get very twitchy at that point. Take this flight during my training, for example. We were coming into approach at Southend. The needles got really twitchy at the last minute. I picked up a bit of lift from some buildings on final and nearly lost the glide slope.
Oh, bloody hell, I just lost it. Yep. Golf India Victor going around.
Come in the Victor.
And for the test, there are those single needle holds where you have to navigate into and around the hole just using a single needle pointer. It's quite challenging, especially when you're trying to calculate the tailwind, headwind, the wind drift and everything else. And then on top of that, ATC will always decide to talk to you at the most inopportune moment.
Got 223, so that's 8 degrees, 8, 16, 24. 24 is the...
Golf India Victor, Squawk 4575.
Squawk 4575, Golf India Victor. Do they not know what we're doing up here?
I'd say if you can fly confidently in IMC using an IMC rating, you should be able to step up to the full IR, but expect it to take practice and patience. I had to do a minimum of 10 hours training before I could apply for the test. I probably did more like 20 to 25 hours. We'll find out how I got on with the test in just a moment, but first some good news, I think, from AOPA UK. You may know that UK pilots, some of them at least, of a certain age and with certain medical conditions, have been finding they've had to undergo a stress ECG test costing hundreds of pounds just to renew their Class 2 medical. It follows a change in policy by the UK CAA, who are worried about pilots having cardiac events in flight. Aero medical examiners have been using a scoring system which sort of factors in weight, pre-existing medical conditions, age, blood test results, and so on, to determine what your risk is. But AOPA UK says there have been very, very few cardiac events in flight. The evidence doesn't support the change, and they've been putting pressure on the CAA to reconsider this policy change, because what's happening now is a lot of pilots who until this point had Class 2 medicals are kind of going underground. They're finding that they might have to undergo a stress ECG, and they're then converting to a pilot medical declaration, so they're not subjected to any oversight or checks at all, which kind of defeats the object. They're still posing the same risk that they did before. It's just that the CAA and the medical examiners don't know anything about it. So as I say, AOPA have been putting pressure on the CAA, and the good news is, I think, according to AOPA, the CAA is going to be reviewing this decision. Now, don't celebrate just yet, because it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to change the policy, but I think it is good news that they are considering or are going to actually review the policy, and hopefully that will lead to perhaps some tweaks or changes to their current way of doing things. And this is one of the reasons why I'm a member of AOPA. I value the work they do to support us and keep us flying and keep the costs of our flying down and the regulation as low as it possibly can be. And if you value those things as well, then do join AOPA. You can sign up with a discount using my special link that's on the screen and in the video description.
So I've just arrived at Cambridge Airport. It's just after 7:30 in the morning. The Aero Club doesn't open till 8:30. I've been awake since 4 o'clock, but I did go to bed quite early, and I've been planning and prepping for today. I've basically planned, my initial plan is to do a route from here to Southend for some holds, a radar vectored ILS, some general handling, basically recovery from unusual attitudes, and then back to Cambridge for an RMP approach to land. It's been going well in the training. The only uncertainty is when am I going to get the approaches here at Cambridge? They don't allow you to book the approaches for your exam until 8 o'clock on the morning of the test. And so I don't know what time I'm going to get. And bearing in mind, I've got to book approaches at 2 airports. It is quite tricky and stressful in itself. Just jolly annoying that. I don't know why for an exam the airports wouldn't allow you to book in advance. Southend have, but Cambridge here won't allow you to book until 8 o'clock in the morning. So I've got to wait another 20 minutes before I can do that. And then into the Aero Club, pre-flight the aircraft, print off all the documentation I need, and off we go, hopefully.
The weather on the day of my test was pretty grim, real IMC. I do like to have cloud ceilings of 1,000 feet or more when I depart in IMC in case of engine failure after takeoff. It wasn't looking like things would reach that minima at the time of my initially booked test, but that wasn't the only problem. Okay, so I wasn't able to get the approaches that I needed, and also the cloud bases here at Cambridge are currently 500 feet. I think it's going to improve as the day goes on. Thankfully, the examiner has a bit of flexibility, it turns out. So we're putting it back a bit, and it looks like we're now going to Norwich. I'm just waiting for a call back from Norwich to let me know that they can let us in. I did speak to ATC and they were fine, but I've got to go through the handling agent, and just waiting for them to come back to me to confirm that we can do the approach there. So, yep, I've now got to replan for Norwich and just hope that the cloud bases here rise above 1,000 feet for a safe departure from Cambridge. Eventually got those approaches and then set off on the test with the examiner. I didn't film the test for a whole host of reasons that I'm sure you'll appreciate, but a few days later on a flight between Wales and England, when the weather was a little better than it was on my test day, I was finally able to share the result with you.
So here I am in India Victor. I'm flying VFR today because there's CBs around, but the good news is that I passed the IR test. And here is my temporary certificate. So should I wish to fly IFR today, on the IR that is, I could do so legally. That does me for 8 weeks. I have to obviously get the rating properly added to my licence, but well, what a relief to have got that done. After passing the test, I was still feeling sick and did so for a couple of days afterwards. It was very stressful. I jumped in the airplane, strapped myself in, started the engine and just went, right, let's do it. It was one of those things, something I wasn't really looking forward to doing, but it actually went quite well. The examiner was courteous, kind. Their only feedback was to say to me, relax. They kept saying, relax, because I was so tense all the time, as you would be, trying to maintain that altitude and heading so accurately. Do all the checks that you've meant to do as frequently as you ought to. The other feedback the examiner gave me was, and this was the only sort of professional feedback that was given, was that I need to manage my speed. Whilst I maintain the right speeds that I'd nominated in the cruise, in the hold, in the approach, in the descent I let the speed creep up, which is it's a bit of a thing with the Aero. I'm reluctant to chop the power so heavily, and that's something that I was told I need to watch my speed. That was the only feedback I got. So I think actually I didn't do too badly, to be fair. I think I did all right.
Since passing the test, I've been out trying my newfound privileges. For cross-country flying, it's a real game changer. It makes life so much easier. I can't wait to use it on long international legs, and of course next year when I cross the Atlantic and take India Victor over to Oshkosh, or at least that's the plan. I want to say a special thank you to Nigel and the whole team at Anglian Flight Centres who've supported me through every step of the way on this IR journey. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. There's a host of unedited videos from my IR training flights over on my Supporters Club channel on Patreon. If you want to see what I went through, go and check them out. Just because I have the IR now, it doesn't mean that I won't be flying VFR ever again. I love VFR flying, and there'll be plenty of content to satisfy all tastes here on the Flying Reporter in coming weeks. Until next time, fly safely, my friends.